Is Core Keeper worth playing right now? I'm not going to beat around the bush. Yes, it is. In fact, I like the game so much, I'm dedicating an entire channel to it right here on YouTube. Link for that in the description below. So what is Core Keeper? Imagine Stardew Valley and Terraria had a baby, throw in a little ARPG game mechanics, and you get Core Keeper. Why do I like it so much? Let me show you so you can decide if it looks like the type of game you'll sink dozens and dozens of hours into. Let's get started. The first feature I want to look at for Core Keeper is going to be the crafting feature. You're going to be familiar with this if you've played any open world survival crafting games. They all have crafting involved in them, so let's click on the crafting menu real quick. So you just press tab, it's going to open up your inventory, and you're going to see you have this crafting option. When you first start the game out, you're not going to have anything. You're just going to spawn in with just your character. This world has, I think, about 45, 50 hours in it, so I have a lot of stuff here. It's going to take you a decent amount of time to get all this stuff. But anyway, when you first spawn in, you're going to be able to craft the basic workbench, the torch, the wood pickaxe, and the wood shovel. These all craft wood to craft. When you spawn in, you're going to spawn near this core. There's going to be plenty of wood there for you to craft these things. Let's take a look at the crafting, the first basic workbench. So we're not going to look at every single one of them because I don't want to spoil everything. But essentially, each one of these workbenches is going to allow you to craft gear. So the first one's going to allow you to craft copper gear. That's one step up from the wooden gear that you can make early on. You'll also be able to make the furnace, which will allow you to smelt ores, or some of the ores. The cooking pot, which will allow you to combine foods to make different food recipes. Chest for storage. The copper anvil, which allows you to craft different armor sets. And then you'll also be able to craft another workbench, which is the tin workbench. That's the second level workbench. It'll also allow you to craft stuff for base building. So you can build out of the natural terrain. There's dirt, clay, turf walls, there's stone walls. There's a bunch of different kind of walls you can actually mine yourself, which we're going to look at in just a second. And you can use those to build, but if you want to build out of fancier stuff, you can build out of wood. So we have the wood walls, the wood floors, there's doors, bridges, and of course a bed. Later on, you'll be able to upgrade. As you open up the different workbenches, you'll be able to craft better stuff. So there'll be higher level tools, higher level crafting items, and as well as better base building options. So as an example right here, you can see this entire base I built is made out of stone. So that's using one of the higher level workbenches. The higher level workbenches allow you to open up other things, such as a table that allows you to craft painting things, as well as jewelry and stuff like that. Now let's head over here to the other crafting things. So like I said, we're not going to click on all these because I don't want to spoil much for you, but currently, as I'm recording this, there's 3 different anvils in the game. Now, do be mindful, this is the demo version, so the early access version that you're watching that came out today is going to have far more than this. The demo version had just a snippet of what was actually in the game. So right now in the demo version, there's 3 anvils. Each one of these allows me to craft better and better gear. The ores that are currently in the game are going to be copper, tin, iron, and gold. There's also another ore that's coming, scarlet ore, that should be available in the early access version. So that's the crafting. That's the basic gist of it. It's simple. You also can, actually, other things let's talk about. You can craft, aside from the tools, you can craft armor sets. You can also craft and find necklaces and rings, as well as other accessories. So the thing with these is each one of them is going to have, or they can have different set bonuses. So for example, the bronze armor will give me more health, more armor, and better mining damage. For the helmet, the breastplate's going to give me better melee damage, and the pants are going to give me better range damage. There are sets that have set bonuses along with accessories. So some of the accessories have set bonuses. This one does not, but these two do. So for example, these are among the first pieces of jewelry you're probably going to find. That's going to be the Ring of Stone and the Ring of Rock. The Ring of Stone and the Ring of Rock, if you combine them, you're going to see there's a 2-set bonus that gives you plus 49 mining damage. So this will be super useful early on, especially if you're mining, because you're going to do a lot of mining in this game. And if you have those on, you'll have to do more mining damage, which means you'll be able to break the walls that you're mining much faster. And it'll also allow you to use lower level gear in order to mine them, because some of the walls do require higher level amounts of, or higher skill in mining. And having this one will allow you to use weaker pickaxes to break them. Next up, let's take a look at some of the other features of the game, specifically mining and combat. I'm combining the two because more likely than not, while you're mining, you're going to end up getting in combat. And for mining, you can basically use a pickaxe. You can also use your torch or just your fist if you're punching the weaker walls. And then, of course, if you have higher level mining skill, it'll be pretty easy to break these walls. So we're just going to go out here and I'm real quickly going to show you. Now, I've mined out pretty much everything around here. This took me about 45 or so hours to mine all this out to as far as I could possibly mine in the demo. And when you're mining, you basically, like I said, you can just use your fist or a torch when you're starting out. It's going to take you a little bit longer. Now, do be mindful, like, if you're just starting out, you're not going to be able to one-shot these walls. But basically, when you're mining, it's going to be similar to other games like Minecraft and stuff like that, where if you're mining, I would recommend strip mining, where you're basically just doing grids so you can find all the ores. Now, I've pretty much uncovered all the ores here. The ores are going to be easy to see. They're just going to be sparkling spots inside of the walls. And let's just switch to a pickaxe real quick just to show you. So there's going to be you'll find those pretty easily. You can see them from pretty far away, but as you level up your skills, which we'll talk about in just a second, your skills will allow you to see further away. So I'm probably not going to see any ores right now, but they're pretty easy to see. So anyway, that's the basics of mining. Like I said, just strip mine, look for your resources. As you go through, you'll probably find other things. Like, for example, let's just head on over here. I know there's a couple places. So for example, this right here, aside from just finding resources, you can find little wooden houses. So there's a wooden house over here. Up in the stone area, I did find some mazes that you can go into. So there's also houses over here. So this area right here has 2 mazes that you can go into. These walls were unbreakable right now. I'm not sure if you can break them in the future, but I was not able to break these. And in the center was a chest that had decent loot in it. There's also loot scattered around here. And then there's more houses over here. And then over in the stone area, you're going to find where the cavelings are. They're going to be tougher enemies. There's going to be lots of things over there that you can break, like vases and stuff like that, that'll have decent resources in it. So that's the gist of basically mining and resource gathering. You can also harvest plants that you can take back to, and that'll drop seeds you can either consume or you can plant to do farming, such as the glow tulip right here. We're going to talk about farming in just a second, but let's hop over and take a look at the combat. So I have an iron sword and I have a pretty decent melee skill. So I'm going to one-shot these things. When you're first starting out, it's going to take quite a few hits. Let's go find a place where there's a bunch of them. Now, when you first spawn in, you're not going to have this many enemies. They're just here because I have lots of hours in this game, and because I've like dug all these walls out. You could prevent a lot of them from spawning by just blocking off the walls or putting doors there, but I just have it open freely because I don't really care. So basically, the combat is going to look very simple. We're going to find one of the spiky ones because they're the ones that are aggressive. These guys are passive, so you can just walk up to them. However, if you hit them, they will start attacking you. And you know what? Let me just make a weaker. Let me hit them with my wooden pickaxe because that way I won't one-shot them, hopefully. I'm not one-shotting them. So combat looks pretty basic. They're just going to hop at you. But the issue is going to be that while it looks simple, they can actually do a decent amount of damage to you. Let's see how much damage this guy does to me. So he only hit me for 10 because I have good armor on. But when you're first starting out, there's a chance, like these spiky guys, if you get hit like 2 or 3 times, you will just die because you're not going to have a lot of health. I think I have like 300 health, and I have one, like a mid-tier armor set right now. So the combat does look kind of basic. But like I said, if you're not careful, you can very easily die. I've died a bunch of times on this, especially against the bosses. The bosses can do a tremendous amount of damage to you, especially early on before you have good gear. So the combat, while it looks simple, you're going to end up fighting harder stuff than this. These are the slimes. Later on, you're going to run into some grubs, or larvae. There's small larvae and big larvae, and actually we might be able to see them down here because I do have a farm set up for both slimes and larvae. Let's see if we have any of those down here. There's also the cavelings, which have different variants, and there's going to be I'm sure there's going to be others that are outside. So these are going to be some of the other ones. So these are the little larvae you run into. These are small ones. There's also large ones that pop up that will be they're going to be bigger than your character, and they're going to be a little more tanky. There's also different variants of these. And like I said, in the stone biome, you're going to find the cavelings, which are just little creatures that look similar to you, but there's a couple versions of those. I think there's 3 versions of them right now that I've run into. And those guys can do a tremendous amount of damage. That's the first time I died was when I was out there and I got hit by one of the little guys with his pickaxe, and it did like half my health, and then I ran into a couple more. So that things can get dicey real quick. So while the combat system is looks like it's pretty simple, you got to be careful. You have to be mindful what's going on. Like when you're fighting the slimes, for example, you're not going to see a lot of it here because I've cleared most of it out. There's going to be slime on the ground, which we can see over here. The slime that's inside of here, that's where they spawn from. That will actually slow you down by, I think it's like 50% or something like that. So when you walk through slime, you're going to move much slower. And actually, we can see some down here. So you can see my movement speed just comes to a crawl. So if you're in an area where there's tons of slime, like the first boss is a slime boss that you should run into within probably the first half an hour or so you're playing. Not saying you should definitely fight him, but you'll run into him. He's going to be surrounded by slime, and getting around him, that's the most treacherous part, is trying to avoid getting hit by that guy while not taking damage, because you're going to be constantly slowed down from all the slime around it. Next up, let's take a look at the building. So the building options, like I said, you're going to have your choice of different options. You can start out by just building a mud hut, basically. You don't have to build anything super special. When you're first starting out, I probably have some in here. Let's take a look at what we have. So the different walls that are in the game, you can build out of dirt, there's clay, there's stone. I don't have any of the hive walls right now. There's also turf walls, and there's sand walls. You can build out of those. Now, the slimes will not break any of the walls. However, later on, the cavelings will actually break the walls. I don't know if the big larvae can break the walls, but the cavelings do have pickaxes. They will break through walls. So if you're building near them, just be mindful of that they can break through walls. So you could build out of these, but more likely than not, you're going to build out of something better. So I think I have wood walls in one of these. Or not. We'll just make a couple wood walls just so I can show you. So we'll make a couple wood walls, And we'll make a couple of wood floors. And then we have a couple, and then here's all the stone you can see. So if you put down a wood wall, we'll just build out here in the grass so it's not going to mess any of my stuff up. So basically you can just put the floor down on top of anything. So you place the floor down, there you go, and then you can place walls around it. Like, very simple. It's a very simple building system, but you can make some pretty cool stuff. So we can put the walls over top of it like that. Everything connects, and so far the slimes have not attacked any of my walls, or they can't break my walls, so I haven't worried about it yet. I did build this moat around here. One thing I didn't mention when I was mining is you can actually terraform and dig. So the shovel will allow you to dig. So for example, there was only a little small water spot around this base, and I ended up digging this entire trench around here, because you can basically just dig up anything. So you can dig up any wall, any ground, and then you can manipulate it. So if I wanted the water to come over here, I could just dig straight across. The water would fill this up. You can also use the ground that you dig up to fill spots. So if you come across a place like a body of water or a large chasm that you can't cross, you can just dig up blocks and build across there, or you can build a bridge. It's up to you either way. That's going to allow you to traverse through the map. And the building system is pretty cool. You can see everything I have down here. This is the farm that I built. Like I said, this took me a lot of time. I think this probably took me like 5 or 6 hours to build this entire thing, and I've redone it a bunch of times. But I got all these different rooms up here and everything. Everything's set up, so we got a kitchen area over here. This is where I have all the ores that for smelting, then all the crafting over here. Also have the different, these are things you can find. So you can find lots of things as you're exploring. You can either sell them or display them or just keep them in your chest. I decided to display some of them. Let's eat real quick because my guy's hungry. So that's basically the building system. Like I said, it's pretty simple to do. If you don't like something, you can just tear it up. You get back 100% of your resources, and it's pretty cheap to craft stuff, and it's pretty easy to build. And if you don't like it, you can just tear it down and put it back up without any loss of resources. Next up, let's take a look at our character skills. So the game does have currently 9 skill trees. Depending on the background you pick, you will have bonuses when you start with this. So some of the character backgrounds will give you a bonus to start with, like give you a little bit of head start. For example, this character I picked miner as my background. So when I started out, my mining skill was 3 out of 100 instead of 1 out of 100. Or actually, I think they start out 0, yeah. So as you can see, there's mining, and when you click on each one of these, there's going to be skill trees. So each one of them is going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 different skill tree levels here, and these are going to give you bonuses. The first one is going to give, so for example, the mining one is going to give 10% when you max it out. It was 2%, 4%, 6%, 8%, 10%. This might not sound like much, but when you're doing a lot of mining, this is super helpful. Next up is going to be running. So running's got a bunch of different skills. You unlock running, so let's go back. Mining you unlock just by mining stuff. Very simple. Break walls, you're going to get it. Running, you're going to get from running around. So just moving around, your character is constantly running. You're automatically to unlock these. I didn't find any way to like super cheese this and get this leveled up faster, but that's that. Melee combat is exactly what it sounds like. You're just going to, if you hit enemies with a melee weapon, you will unlock the melee combat. Vitality, it says defeating enemies makes you tougher. So as you're fighting, you're going to unlock this. This is going to increase your max health. So the melee combat and the vitality will go hand in hand, along with the range, which we'll talk about in a second. Crafting, you're going to get this by just crafting stuff. So anything you craft, any items, any tools, resources, anything you craft, you're basically going to get this outside of food, because food has its separate thing. There is range combat in the game. So there's one weapon you can craft, and there's another one you can find or purchase so far. I'm sure there'll be more out of it in the future. So again, like melee combat, range combat, using these will level these up, and at the same time, you're also going to be leveling up your vitality, because this is killing any kind of enemy. And then next up, we have gardening. So we're going to talk about farming in just a second. Farming is going to allow you to level this up, and the benefit of that is the higher you have this, the more likely you are to you'll get better. Basically, you can get better bonuses from your food. So for example, this is about seeds, but the second level is going to be 25% food when eating plants or cooked food made out of plants. So it gives you more food from eating it. So this is going to it's going to be a benefit overall, and it's going to go hand in hand with cooking. Fishing was not in the demo, so I don't know about fishing yet, but there is fishing. Basically, if you see a spot in the water that's got a little sparkling area or something like that, that's where you can fish. So I haven't been able to touch that yet, but that's going to be coming right when the early access version comes out. And last but not least, it's going to be cooking. Anytime you take the foods and place them in the cooking pot, you're going to have a chance to level up the cooking. And the first one of these is going to be 25% food from cooked food. So basically, the cooking and the gardening work together. I'm sure fishing will probably be the same, because I'm sure you're going to be able to cook fish. So these three will likely go together. The melee, the range combat, and the vitality go together. And then actually these three probably go together too, because as you're mining, you're going to be running around a lot and you're going to be crafting the stuff that you pick up. So those are the skill trees. Like I said, I have about 45 hours in this world and I have not even maxed out any of these skills. So it's going to take you quite a long time to max these out. If you're playing by yourself, if you're playing with friends, it might take even longer, depending on what you're doing. I mean, if you're playing with a bunch of people and you're doing the farming stuff like that, you might be able to cook or farm more. So last thing we want to look at real quick before we wrap this up is going to be farming. So farming's pretty simple. All you need to farm is a hoe and a watering can. You can get those pretty early on. And actually, if you pick I think it's the gardener background, you actually start with the hoe and the watering can, but you can craft these pretty early on. You're going to find seeds you'll find all these crops that I have planted here. So we have the heartberries, we have the glow tulips, and we have the bomb peppers, and also the carrots. You'll find these around the map, and as you harvest them with your pickaxe or with your hand or whatever, you can just dig them up also. They have a chance of dropping a seed. Enemies also have a chance of dropping a seed, as well as chests and boxes that you break have a chance of dropping a seed. And there's also spots you can dig. So if you see a spot on the ground that looks like a little X, you can dig that with your shovel. That also has a chance of giving you a seed, as well as other resources. Sometimes you get rare resources, so I definitely recommend digging those up if you see them. And real quick, I don't want to deviate too much. This is a fishing spot right here, so that's where you would fish. So anyway, all you basically do is just hoe the ground, put the plant down, and water it. And they grow pretty quickly. In fact, I think you can get more than one grow in, like, I don't know what actually, there is no day-night cycle because you don't actually sleep, but you can, when you sleep, all it does is heal you. Time does not actually pass because we're down in the cave, so we don't know if it's night or daytime. So there's no day-night cycle. It's just basically the game exists. So these grow pretty quickly. In fact, I think it might only be a couple of minutes. If you plant them and then come back, they should be grown. And basically when you harvest them, we can harvest them real quick. Just harvest one to show you what it looks like. Bam, you're going to grab it. It's going to give you one of them, and also usually it gives you one seed. Sometimes it can give you more than one seed, but I do recommend as you're farming or as you're exploring, collect all the seeds you can find and bring them back with you, because normally when you harvest these, you're only going to get a 1-for-1. So the last thing you want to do is somehow have your farm get destroyed or something like that and not have any seeds. So make sure any seeds you pick up as you're looting, you do keep them with you. Next up, let's take a look at the cooking. So for cooking, what you can do is you can take any of the food resources you grow or find, and you can actually combine them. So for example, let's just take a mushroom, put it down here with this heartberry. We go over to the cooking pot, put these in there. Now, each of the foods give you a certain amount of buff by themselves. So for example, the heartberry gives you 11 food, 2.5 health every second for 20 seconds, but it says it can be cooked. The mushroom gives you 9 food, and it gives you 2 health. So if you eat these separately, you're going to get 20 food, and you're going to heal for a little bit. So if we put these in the cooking pot, what we're going to get is we're going to get mushy berry pudding. So rather than getting the 20 food, we're actually going to get 28. Now, this is based off of your cooking stat. So, and I think your cooking and guarding stat, I believe. So you will probably have lower amounts if you're just starting out, but as you level up, these will increase. But the bottom line is combining 2 foods in the cooking pot is going to be better than eating those 2 foods separately. So there's currently, as of right now, we'll look at here real quick. These are all the different recipes you can cook using the basic foods. There are some rare food resources that you can cook to make other things, but these are the 21. There's 21 different things you can cook right now. Each of these is going to give you different buffs. We'll just pick one at random. So the mushy pepper wrap, actually, is that the one I just made? No, I made the hearty pepper wrap. Mushy pepper wrap gives you 28 food, 25.6% movement speed. So they can give you movement speed. They can give you the ability to see in the glow. So the ones that have here the glow, they'll give you 4 glow. That means instead of holding a torch, you'll have a little light of bubble of light around you that will light up the area. Others give you we got the health regeneration. Some of them give you a critical hit chance. So each of these, armor plus 23 armor. So each of these will have uses in different situations. You'll have to test them out and see which ones you like. You can also find foods. For example, I should have some caveling bread. You can't cook caveling bread, but you can find it. You can also purchase it from one of the NPCs. So the food in this game, like the eating is not super, super tedious so far from what I've seen. I believe they balanced it a lot during their alpha testing. So you'll have to eat occasionally, but not like super frequently. And I think the more you do, the more you have to eat. So for example, if I'm sitting here and I'm just letting stuff cook, or I'm letting the ore smelt in the furnace and I just go AFK for 20 minutes and come back, my character is not going to expend much energy, so the food's not going to deplete. However, if I'm out fighting a lot, or if I'm out mining and stuff like that and doing like tedious or intensive activities, my character is going to expend a lot of energy and I'm going to have to eat more often. The food will also heal you, obviously, and there are also potions. That's one thing I didn't mention. Like I said, I don't want to spoil everything, but there are potions you can craft currently. You can also craft jewelry and stuff like that too. So just to wrap this up, a couple other things that I did mention early on were some other features. So the map is procedurally generated, meaning that your map is going to look different than mine and different than anybody else's you play with. Every map is procedurally generated. The only thing that's going to be the same is you will always spawn by the core. So the little core area that's up here, you're always going to spawn by this. And when you spawn in, it's just going to be a big square room that has the core. It's going to have these other things over here that you can power up, and they're going to have roots around them with some mushrooms over here. It's going to look exactly the same. Outside of that, everything outside of that room is going to be procedurally generated. You're going to spawn in the dirt biome, but everything outside of that, like I said, procedurally generated. For example, the first boss that I ran into was up here on my world. I went into a couple other worlds. One time it was up here, one time it was down here. So the bosses are going to be in different spots, and the biomes are going to be in different spots. So just because you see my map and say, oh my gosh, there's the stone biomes up here, and the one down here, the clay biomes down here, that doesn't mean that's where they're going to be on your map. Every map's going to be different, and resources are going to be in different spots. Rare resources are going to be in different spots. The bosses are going to be in different spots. So the map's procedurally generated. It is also infinite, so it can go out infinite in any direction. I don't know exactly. I'm sure it's probably like Minecraft, where if you get a certain distance away, you probably won't be able to travel any further, but it'll probably take you years to get there. So the maps are procedurally generated, infinite. The game does have two different modes. You can play standard or hardcore. Standard is going to be your normal game mode, where if you die, you can respawn. Hardcore is you get one life and you die. At the beginning, you'll be able to choose a background. Like I said, I chose minor. There's going to be a couple other backgrounds. I have a video on my second channel that covers each of the backgrounds that were available in the demo, which ones I prefer, which ones I don't prefer, and also recommendations if you're playing solo or if you're playing with a group of friends. And then I think I talked about boss battles, but if I didn't, there are 3 bosses currently in the game, and they do correspond with these 3 different cores, the 3 different things here that are going to power up the core. In the demo, you could kill all 3 bosses, but you couldn't actually place the gems that they drop. So each boss will drop a resource, which is, actually, I think I have one on my chest up here. So this is the Heart of the Hive Mother. That's the one that the 3rd boss drops. So the first boss drops the one that you can put in here. The second boss drops the one you can put in here, and the 3rd boss, although you can fight them in any order. I think the order I fought them in is the one you're normally going to fight them in. The 3rd one you put it in here, and once you put that in here, it should power up the core. Beyond that, I'm not exactly sure what happens because we can't do that in the demo. So the whole gist of the game is powering up the core. I believe you have to, I'm not sure, you might have to defend it, or I don't know what's going to happen, but powering up the core is going to do something, and then you'll be able to advance through. That's going to be available as soon as early access comes out. So this video is dropping the day that early access opens up, so you will be able to power all this up. So there's going to be 3 bosses. You can also fight the bosses again if you want to fight them more than once. There is a resource that you can use to respawn them in. And there's also NPCs. That's one thing I didn't mention. So similar to Terraria, there's NPCs. So that can actually, you can buy and sell stuff. You can sell stuff too and buy stuff from different resources. And I think that pretty much covers everything. Like I said, I have about 50, 60 hours in the demo. So I absolutely love everything about this game. So that's Core Keeper. Like I said, I love everything about the game so far, and I have an entire channel dedicated to it. So if it looks like the type of game you'll enjoy, head down to the description, click the link for my other channel, and hit the subscribe button. If you found this video helpful, make sure to click the like button. Thank you for watching, and thank you to all my channel members who help make videos like this possible. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.